Well, today is November 13th. We're sitting right outside my 70-acre property where my hitless buck Oscar resides, and where I had the encounter with him on November 10th. Now, my story first starts with Oscar this summer when he was really our first good buck that had moved through our trail cameras, and we immediately recognized this buck due to his left G2 kicker and his dark forehead gland as Oscar from the previous winter trail camera survey when he was a 2-year-old. Now, we only got a couple trail camera videos of Oscar working through 2 camera locations on the north side of the property deep in a sanctuary. And then he disappeared for a couple months. So we kind of wrote him off. We didn't think we were going to be able to get on him during the hunting season. And he chose his fall range on the neighbor's property. But we still stuck to our plan this summer. We fanned out a whole bunch of cameras across this property. And in particular, the south end of the property on a section of timber that I normally don't hunt in. Just in years past proved to be unsuccessful, not a lot of deer movement, but a really good setup if there was a good deer back there. And we came to find, when we pulled cards in late October, that Oscar was using this mock scrape that the camera was over basically every other day, morning or afternoon, but in daylight. So we set up a plan to go hunt him. Now, the only stand that we had back in this section of timber that we were able to hunt was a little 15-foot ladder stand hung right outside of the bedding area and probably about 20 yards from the game camera and the mock scrape that he was at. I figured it was pretty low, and it was going to be pretty hard to hunt out of and stay still in with a bow and film equipment without spooking deer, but I went in after him anyway. And that brings us to October 29th, my first real sit for Oscar, and what turned out to be my first encounter with him.
Well, it's round 2 for Oscar. We went back to the house and got some lunch. Snuck in the stand about 2 hours ago. Right now it's 6 o'clock. We have video of Oscar checking this scrape in front of us at 7, so fingers crossed he comes tonight.
Now, on this hunt, I had a really great encounter with him. Got to get some good film of him working through that bedding area and through that timber. And he came into about 10 yards, and as soon as he came around the tree and I was about to come to full draw, he silhouetted me. Even though I was behind the tree, behind my camera equipment, there was just too much stuff in the tree and too low in that little 15-foot ladder stand where he instantly caught me. He didn't spook, he just kind of walked off, but I knew my hunt was over and I didn't know if he was going to be back for a couple days. Now, thinking that, I decided to get out for about a week, give him a rest, give that area a rest, and let my trail cameras do the work for me to see if he was coming back in there before I went back and hunted. But after that Halloween weekend and after that first week of November, we had a really warm weather. Deer movement was really slow. We checked cards on November 7th and 8th, and we didn't have Oscar moving through. We really didn't have a lot of deer movement, but we gave it plenty of time, so I went back in there and hunted for a couple days. And that brought us to the hunt of November 10th.
We moved our stand. This stand, we had a great encounter with our hitless buck, Oscar. We've moved about 50 yards back on a really good tree. We haven't been picked off yet. And so far, every deer that's came in, every deer that we've seen in this bedding area has worked its way out for us to get a 20-yard shot, 30-yard shot. So really working out good. Hopefully Oscar can do that, or another mature buck that's working through this, checking for does in this bedding area. Oscar. That was our hitless buck. He was just going about 35, 40 yards, just trying to get the camera on. And then he was going away, so I turned the grunt call behind the tree, hit him a couple times, hit him a couple more times, and then came in right at 20 yards. I drew back right when his head was behind a big tree and gave it to him at 20 yards. I was gonna wait till he cleared those sticks a little bit more, but he was starting to kind of pick out my silhouette, so I think it was a pretty good shot. I see my arrow right there. I'm gonna see how much there is. He kind of walked off. We're definitely gonna pull out and give him a little while.
Now, as you can guess, that wasn't the ideal shot that I was looking for. He actually silhouetted me just like he did before, right before the clear shooting lane. But I had a pretty clear angle on him. The camera really didn't. There was a couple sticks right in front of his vitals, but I decided to go ahead and punch it through. Now, when I finally got down and got my hands on the arrow, I immediately knew it was a pretty low hit. There was fat on the arrow. There was a little bit of blood, but it was mostly fat, and I knew it was a low hit. So I decided to back out instantly, didn't even go look for blood, decided to go back and look at the footage. Well, it's about 2 o'clock now. We've given this deer 4.5 hours. Went back to the house, looked at all the film. I was on the phone with Jeremy Flynn and all of our other guys from the crew. We all looked at the footage, slowed it down, each frame by frame looked at where the shot hit and when he was walking away, seeing if we could spot any blood coming out. And what we've determined from just looking at the footage and really slowing it down like that is we think it's a lower heart hit. It's probably a 75% chance it is. Just where it went in at and where it came out. Plus we saw dark crimson blood coming out as he was walking away. And he really kind of basically forgot what happened and just walked off with his mouth open, which, really isn't a great sign, but if it is hard hit, he's definitely dead, and he shouldn't be too much farther than when we last saw him entering that, what I call the buck sanctuary back there. So we're really hoping he's right there. I got Jessica with me. She just came back from classes, so hopefully we find this deer in here, and we're gonna do it real slow, real quiet, and if we do bump him up, we're gonna have to back out and try again tomorrow. So fingers crossed we found this deer. Well, we've tracked Oscar 90 yards so far, and he did an about face at the property line and turned straight back into what I call our buck sanctuary. We've probably found 8 dead bucks here in the years past. Whether we shoot them or somebody else shoots them in the neighboring properties, they always end up here, so that's a really good sign. Well, we're now on the very other side of the property. We're in the sanctuary next to the bean field. I did some hinge cutting in here a while back, and it's extremely thick in here, so I'm really hoping he bedded down. We haven't seen a single bed yet. We had some really good blood at first. He dove into some really thick areas, including the buck sanctuary where I found all my bucks, but he went right through that, jumped the creek, and now he's all the way on the other side of the property. It is extremely thick in here. Like I said, I hinge cut in here, and we have briars, coreberry, honeysuckle, blackberry. It's just extremely thick. So we're gonna call it quits tonight. We're gonna come at it with fresh eyes in the morning. Got a couple guys gonna help, and we're gonna grid search this sanctuary, and hopefully he didn't cross the property boundary, and hopefully he's bedded somewhere up in these bushes and thickets. Now, to make an extremely long track drop short, after me and Jessica tracked Oscar all the way into the sanctuary that first day, I came back the next morning with a couple of friends, and we grid searched all the sanctuary and all the thickets on this property until we finally found blood on a fence crossing with a little tuft of hair and a little bit of blood crossing into the neighbor's property. Now, I got permission from this neighbor to search his neighboring 100 acres, and we searched and found blood for another 60 yards, making the blood trail from the shot probably about 700 yards total. Now, after hours of looking, we finally gave up on finding last blood from the few droplets that we had at the end of the blood trail, and we decided to start grid searching both properties on every single thicket. And we tracked on a phone, and it eventually came out to be about 7.8 miles of grid searching. We double checked every single thicket, we kept our eyes out for vultures, but we never found anything. Now, overall, this shot on this great deer wasn't the best it could have been. And if I could relive the day, I definitely would have aimed a couple inches higher, a couple inches closer to that shoulder to get that heart shot or get that lung shot that I thought I got, but obviously didn't get. We never jumped him up. We never found a bed with blood in it. And from this whole experience and from all this searching, we think, and we're gonna go ahead and move forward knowing and thinking that he is still alive. We're obviously gonna keep double checking all the thickets, all the bedding areas, looking for vultures, check all those nooks and crannies that we might not have checked good enough. The neighbor's gonna do the same. They might not search for him as much, but they know what he looks like, and they're gonna tell us if they see vultures or see him during the hunting season. But like I said, we're gonna go ahead and move forward thinking that he is still alive, and hopefully we see him in the late season. He knows that that bean field is an easy food source, especially with him being injured. We're gonna go ahead and readjust all of our cameras to see if we can't catch him in those areas that he favored and back in that sanctuary. And hopefully we see his face again. And if you bow hunt long enough, you know, and you come to situations like this, you make bad shots on deer. And some of you might know the feeling that I have, the sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, and just wishing I could relive that day and made a better shot on this deer.